Ukraine and Russia, two nations inextricably linked by centuries of shared history, language and culture. Yet beneath the surface of their intertwined narratives lies a complex tapestry of power struggles, political ambitions, and a persistent tug-of-war for identity. For centuries, Ukraine, a vast and fertile land bridge between Russia and Europe, has found itself caught in the crosshairs of empires. From the medieval kingdom of Kievan Rus to the partitions of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Ukrainian identity was forged in the crucible of foreign influence and resistance. The rise of the Russian Empire in the 18th century saw the gradual absorption of Ukrainian lands, accompanied by policies aimed at suppressing Ukrainian culture and language. The collapse of the Tsarist regime in 1917 offered a brief window of opportunity for Ukrainian independence. However, this dream was short-lived as Ukraine became embroiled in a brutal civil war, ultimately succumbing to Soviet rule as a constituent republic within the USSR. Despite the hardships endured under Soviet rule, Ukrainians retained a strong sense of national identity. The collapse of the USSR in 1991 marked a watershed moment, with Ukraine declaring its independence and embarking on a new chapter as a sovereign nation. The fall of the Soviet Union did not bring an end to the complexities of the Ukrainian-Russian relationship. The breakup was messy, leaving unresolved issues and simmering tensions. The status of Crimea, a peninsula on the Black Sea with a majority Russian population, became a particularly contentious point. Russia's historical and cultural ties to the region, coupled with its strategic importance, fueled anxieties on both sides. The Orange Revolution of 2004, sparked by a disputed presidential election, further exposed the fault lines in the relationship. Russia's support for the pro-Russian candidate, Viktor Yanukovych, was seen by many in Ukraine as interference in their internal affairs. The protests ultimately led to a rerun of the election and the victory of pro-Western Viktor Yushchenko, signaling Ukraine's desire for closer ties with Europe. The events of 2014 proved to be a turning point, with Yanukovych rejecting a trade deal with the European Union in favor of closer economic ties with Russia. This sparked mass protests in Kiev's Maidan Square, known as the Euromaidan Revolution, met with a brutal crackdown by government forces. Russia seized the Crimean Peninsula in a swift and bloodless annexation, igniting a separatist conflict in the eastern Ukrainian regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. The ongoing conflict has inflicted deep wounds on both Ukrainian and Russian societies. The human toll is immeasurable, with countless lives lost, families torn apart, and futures shattered. For Ukraine, the war has been nothing short of catastrophic. Millions have been displaced from their homes, seeking refuge in safer parts of the country or fleeing across borders. Cities and towns lie in ruins, bearing witness to the indiscriminate shelling and brutal fighting. The war has crippled the Ukrainian economy, disrupting industries, destroying infrastructure, and plunging millions into poverty. Beyond the immediate physical devastation, the conflict has inflicted deep psychological trauma on the Ukrainian people. The constant threat of violence, the loss of loved ones, and the uncertainty of the future have taken a heavy toll. Russia, too, has not emerged unscathed, with economic sanctions imposed by the West leading to economic hardship, rising inflation, and a decline in living standards. The war has also fueled repression and dissent within Russia, as the Kremlin cracks down on any form of opposition or criticism. The Ukraine-Russia conflict is not merely a regional crisis, it is a global event with far-reaching consequences. The war has sent shockwaves across the international community, upending the post-Cold War order and exposing the fragility of peace in the 21st century. One of the most immediate and alarming consequences of the conflict has been the humanitarian crisis. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced, seeking refuge in neighboring countries such as Poland, Romania, and Moldova. The influx of refugees has strained resources and tested the capacity of host nations, prompting calls for international cooperation and assistance. The war has also had a profound impact on the global economy, disrupting supply chains, leading to soaring energy prices, food shortages, and economic uncertainty worldwide. The conflict has heightened geopolitical tensions, particularly between Russia and the West, with the United States and its European allies imposing unprecedented sanctions on Russia. Section 5. The Faces of Defiance, Architects of Conflict. At the heart of this intricate conflict stand individuals whose decisions and actions have shaped the course of events. Vladimir Putin, the enigmatic and long-serving president of Russia, stands as a central figure in this narrative. driven by a complex mix of historical grievances, geopolitical ambitions, and a desire to restore Russia to its former glory. Putin has framed the invasion of Ukraine as a necessary measure to protect Russian interests and counter Western expansionism. On the Ukrainian side, Volodymyr Zelensky, a former comedian thrust into the role of wartime leader, has emerged as a symbol of Ukrainian resistance. Zelensky's defiance in the face of Russian aggression, his unwavering commitment to Ukrainian sovereignty, and his ability to rally international support have earned him admiration and respect worldwide. Section 6. The Fog of War. Navigating the Labyrinth of Motivations. The motivations driving the key actors in the Ukraine-Russia conflict are complex and often shrouded in layers of historical narratives, geopolitical calculations, and personal ambitions. For Putin, the invasion of Ukraine can be seen as the culmination of a long-held belief that Ukraine is not a truly independent nation, but rather an artificial construct of the West, torn from Russia's historical embrace. This belief, fueled by a selective reading of history and a deep-seated resentment towards NATO expansion, has shaped his actions and rhetoric. Putin's actions are also driven by a desire to restore Russia to its former status as a great power, capable of projecting its influence on the world stage. On the Ukrainian side, the motivations are clearer. Ukrainians are fighting for their right to exist as a free and independent nation, free from Russian interference and coercion. The Maidan Revolution of 2014, which toppled a pro-Russian government, was a testament to the Ukrainian people's desire for democracy, rule of law, and closer ties with Europe. Zelensky embodies this spirit of resistance, his defiance in the face of Russian aggression making him a symbol of hope and resilience. Section 7. Beyond the battlefield, the global landscape. The Ukraine-Russia conflict is not merely a bilateral dispute, it is a global crisis with far-reaching implications for the international order. The war has exposed the fault lines in the post-Cold War security architecture, tested the limits of international cooperation, and raised profound questions about the future of global governance. The conflict has highlighted the challenges of maintaining peace and security in a world where power is increasingly diffuse and the rules-based international order is under strain. The war has also underscored the importance of international institutions, such as the United Nations, in mediating disputes and providing humanitarian assistance. The conflict has heightened geopolitical tensions, particularly between Russia and the West, with the United States and its European allies imposing unprecedented sanctions on Russia. The sanctions are designed to cripple the Russian economy and pressure Putin to end the war, but they have also had unintended consequences, further dividing the global community. Section 8. A world transformed, the enduring impact. The Ukraine-Russia conflict, now in its second year, has irrevocably altered the global landscape. The war has shattered long-held assumptions about European security, exposed the fragility of the international order, and unleashed a cascade of economic and humanitarian consequences felt worldwide. The conflict has had a profound impact on European security, prompting a reassessment of defense spending, a strengthening of NATO's eastern flank, and a renewed focus on deterrence against Russian aggression. Beyond Europe, the war has sent shockwaves across the globe, highlighting the interconnectedness of the global economy. The conflict has exacerbated food insecurity, particularly in developing countries that rely heavily on grain imports from Russia and Ukraine. The war has also had a profound impact on the information landscape, highlighting the role of disinformation and propaganda in shaping public perceptions. Section 9. Charting the future between hope and uncertainty. Predicting the trajectory of the Ukraine-Russia conflict is a fraught exercise, fraught with uncertainties and potential for miscalculation. One possible scenario is a protracted stalemate, with neither side able to achieve a decisive military victory. This scenario could see the conflict morph into a frozen conflict, with ongoing low-intensity fighting, continued human suffering, and a persistent threat of escalation. Another possibility is a negotiated settlement, requiring significant concessions from both sides, including a Russian withdrawal from Ukrainian territory and security guarantees for Ukraine. A third, more ominous scenario is a wider war, involving NATO and potentially escalating into a nuclear confrontation. Section 10. Voices from the rubble. Resilience and resistance. Amidst the devastation and despair, stories of resilience, resistance, and hope emerge from the rubble of war-torn Ukraine. Ordinary citizens have displayed extraordinary courage and determination, standing defiant in the face of aggression and fighting for their right to a free and democratic future. From the volunteers distributing food and medicine, to displaced families, to the doctors and nurses working tirelessly in overwhelmed hospitals, ordinary Ukrainians have shown remarkable resilience in the face of adversity. The Ukrainian resistance has also been bolstered by the courage and skill of its armed forces, inflicting heavy casualties on the invading Russian forces and slowing their advance. The international community has also rallied to Ukraine's side, providing humanitarian assistance, military aid, and diplomatic support. Section 11. The Unfinished Chapter, a Conflict Unresolved. The Ukraine-Russia conflict is an ongoing tragedy, a stark reminder of the human cost of war and the fragility of peace. As the conflict grinds on, its ultimate outcome remains uncertain, its impact reverberating far beyond the battlefields of Ukraine. The war has exposed the fault lines in the international order, tested the limits of diplomacy, and raised profound questions about the future of global security. It has also highlighted the enduring power of nationalism, the importance of democratic values, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. As the world watches and waits, the people of Ukraine continue to endure, their courage and determination a beacon of hope amidst the darkness.